The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you are encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree or disagree with the author, matters not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we are syndicated across the United States into 12 million additional households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Our guest today is a real American hero, one of many who responded not far from where our studios are right now to Ground Zero on September the 11th, 2001, and the ensuing days, months. Many of whom, as you know, we've discussed this on this program many times, became very ill subsequently. And unfortunately, you know, this country, I don't know what's wrong with us, our government, we turn our backs on the people who we asked to serve. You know, while the rest of us were running away from Ground Zero, these guys were running into Ground Zero. And he's written a book that will be his legacy called One of Them, First Responder Story. It's about his story, but it's not just about him. It's about all the first responders and second responders who answered the call to the duty and how we neglected them, and we continue to neglect them, in my opinion. You know, the other day we were talking about this just briefly, and I mentioned it in my blog, that Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York City just issued a report saying the post-traumatic stress disorder incidence among those who worked the pile at Ground Zero is higher than the general population. Should come as no surprise to any of us. The police commissioner here in New York City, Ray Kelly, is now calling on Congress to pass a bill providing treatment for all those who inhale toxins at the World Trade Center site. We've talked about the fact that Christy Todd Whitman, the then EPA administrator, lied to us, myself included, at a press conference just off of Ground Zero when she said the air around the World Trade Center was safe to breathe. It obviously was not. This gentleman is thankfully living proof of that. He has suffered tremendous post-traumatic stress disorder, and his liver, he had to go through a liver transplant. You weren't even expected to live through that.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. Now let's backtrack and tell the folks who you are, because you're not a police officer, you're not a firefighter, you're not a medic, although you worked with many of those people and trained many of those people.
That's correct.
You're actually, are you a nuclear physicist?
I'm a nuclear physicist by education.
Okay.
I've been in the nuclear field for 33 years now.
Starting in the Navy on a nuclear sub.
Exactly. I started 6 years in the Navy on a nuclear submarine, went into the commercial nuclear industry for a while. The government had asked me if I would join them at Brookhaven Lab as a nuclear physicist, and I did that. Subsequently, that job led into me being assigned as a federal agent to the New York City Joint Terrorist Task Force prior to 9/11.
You had no idea that this was going to be your calling.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And you know, subsequently, that's how I ended up at Ground Zero.
So you guys are the guys that people you don't even know, folks, when they're standing next to you. One of the fellas who's probably in the audience here right now, a good friend of mine, a physician here in New York, had to go through some testing, not even treatment, radiological testing. He was standing in line at a fast food restaurant. A guy, plain clothes, dressed down like me, walked up to him in line and said, "Sir, come with me for a second." Showed him a shield, pulled him aside. You know, his radiation detector went off. It was probably disguised as a cell phone or a pager. He never saw what it was. He felt very much confident after that we're doing a lot of things. This is what you guys do, right? Or you did. If there was a threat, or not even a threat, maybe just prophylactically, to use the word, you would go out and you would take readings. And sometimes you'd get hits, and you'd have to actually go where the rest of us would not want to go to determine.
Well, that was the thing. We used to call it hiding in plain sight. And that's why you talk about wearing normal clothes.
Yeah.
When you're working around different parts of a large metropolis area like New York City, there is an element there where you would not go in dressed as a suit and tie if you wanted to come out the same way you went in.
Right.
So you would dress down, you would wear street clothes.
You'd even get hassled by the cops because they didn't know who you were when you were doing at certain locations.
We've been placed under arrest several times, held at gunpoint. I've actually been drug out of a vehicle, placed on, at gunpoint, and threatened not to move. And
well, they were just doing their jobs too.
They were, and it took about an hour and a half, to get it all straightened out, but it has to go through a certain chain of command on their side for somebody higher up to say yes, let these guys go.
Right.
But I mean,
usually you'd have to drop it down with somebody you knew,
sure.
Right, in order to get the word to them. So on 9/11, you were at Brookhaven with your team. On 9/12, I guess it was, you finally got dispatched here, and you did an evaluation of whether there was any significant radiological contaminants in the air.
That was our initial assignment. Was that the New York City Department of Health had received information from the State Department of Labor that there were radioactive sources being used and stored in the World Trade Center. You use them in an industrial setting to do x-rays of welds and pipes and things like that to test the integrity of those. And there was some concern that they were being stored in the towers at the time that they collapsed. The problem is that if the containment on the sources themselves had been breached, they would pose a lethal